Hey everyone, I'm your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and today is exciting. I have a very special guest. This man is incredible, and what he does is unique and special and necessary. You know, I only bring my audience the best stuff. So, help me welcome to the stage Mr. Sam Kamani and what he does, helping us get to a better place financially on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the Gentleman Style Podcast show.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marcus. It's great to be on your show. I love your energy and I love what you're doing with your show. Let me give you a bit of a background about myself, about
Please.
my journey, and then a little bit about what I'm doing as well. So, first of all, I have been involved in tech startups for the last 15 years. I've had two small exits. So, where I built a company, I grew it, and then I sold that company to another business. So that's what I've done. My first business was in e-commerce, or my first startup was in e-commerce space. So we had our own brand, we built it. I grew the revenue quite a bit. We used to sell the products in US, Australia, New Zealand, and some parts in Asia. And then much larger Chinese company bought it, or a company that was doing business in China bought it. And then after that, I moved back into tech because I was a developer with my origin. And so the next business was in tech startup, and with that was esports, in the esports. So we used to create a platform where people can run esport or competitions and things like that. And that with that, I was based near San Francisco or in Bay Area for a short time, and that got acquired in 2018. So after that, I came back home to New Zealand. I live in New Zealand, so I'm talking right now, and it's Tuesday. I know it's Monday for you. I'm calling you from future. So after that, I wrote books on tech startups, and I speak at events, and I also work as a growth advisor for two or three different technology startups, and they are in the Web3 space and the blockchain space. Yep, so I help companies grow. Basically, that's what I do. So if you have any questions on growth, or building businesses, selling them, anything, feel free to ask them. I also run a podcast called Web3 with Sam Kamani, and it's on every sort of audio platform where I interview founders and investors who invest in blockchain based businesses or who are building blockchain based businesses. So yeah, so that's everything about me.
Yeah, very well rounded, very talented. You do a lot, sir. And so you've done so many things in businesses and invested in multiple businesses. Out of all your businesses and all your ventures, which one is your favorite? Which has been the best investment for you?
Okay, so the first one that I did was in the e-commerce space, and of course it was the timing. So it was from 2007 to 2015. I ran that, and that has been the most financially rewarding for me, because I am always early when it comes to technology. To give you an example of that, I was buying Google AdWords in 2004. This is 18 years ago, when no one knew about Google AdWords, and people thought that I'm silly, I'm wasting my money, that is just a fad, all those sort of things. And so I use the same sort of techniques to grow that business, and make it a multi-million dollar business and then sell it. So financially, that was the most rewarding, and that's purely because of doing things what others are not doing. So in 2007, I was doing Google AdWords, but towards later on, like 2012, 13, 14, or even 15, I stopped doing that many sort of, say, digital ads, and I went back to say things like TV ads or radio ads, because the idea is arbitrage. You want to be where you don't have any competitors, but all your audience is there. And that's what was when it came to digital back in the days. And then later on, it was in sort of analog channels, like because we used to market a product that was targeted at men age over 55, and in 2014 there were more men age over 55 watching golf at 3 a.m. in the night, and there's no competitors advertising to them, so we could buy ads for a few dollars on TV. And compared to, say, like Google ads or social media ads or things that did cost in thousands. So yeah, it's just finding arbitrage. So that was the most financially rewarding. But when it comes to rewarding in form of other ways, I do love running my podcast, even though it might not have a direct financial impact. I have made lifelong friends through running my podcast and interviewing people, and I've built networks and connections all over the world. It's like, I live in Auckland, New Zealand, and I just got back 5-6 days ago from LA. I was in LA for 8-9 days. Like, I stayed with so many of my friends in their places, and they took me around all around LA and Southern California and stuff, and I had so much fun. All these friends I made through podcasting, and now I work with people in sort of in the growing businesses space through the friends that I've made it through podcasting. So I would say, when it comes to sort of personal growth, I would say it's my podcast that has been the most impactful. But yes, of course, if it comes to just purely financial, there have been other businesses that did well for me.
For sure, for sure. And that's the thing, is diversification. You hear it all the time. That's a common phrase: diversification, diversification. And over the
Yes.
extent of your years, many years, you look good. You look good. You don't look over 30, man. You look real good.
I am 41.
What? Lies and
Yes.
deceit. You look
Is that?
incredible.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I'm curious though. We I want to touch on Web3 and how
Yes,
this is changing the market. But you also mentioned the blockchain, and when you mention blockchain, you can't
yes,
not mention NFTs. What are
yes,
NFTs, and should people invest their money in NFTs? Does it make sense? Because you said it's timing, right? When you got
yes,
into e-commerce and when you got into Google, it was a timing thing. Are
yes.
NFTs the time? Is the time now to invest?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very, very good point. With timing, you want to be just right. You don't want to be too early, because if you are too early, none of your customers are there because you still need someone to sell to. So there's no point in being online and trying to sell online in 1996 or 97 when there is no one there. No one has, heard of or tried internet shopping. People are really skeptical that, oh, what, you're going to give your credit card to someone online on the internet? Are you crazy? You would be scammed. It's like saying to someone that, hey, I'm going to jump into a stranger's car and that stranger will take me somewhere, or I'm going to sleep in upstairs of a stranger's house. But now Uber and Airbnb are a common thing. People are okay with that. So it is a timing thing, that you want your timing to be right. And I do feel that even though NFTs have utility, that utility is kind of overshadowed by all the hype and all the noise and all the scams and all the pyramid schemes in the market. So I do feel that NFTs are still a bit early. There's very few people who really participate in a meaningful way in NFTs. Most people are just flicking them or trading them. um, NFTs could be for a lot more. I mean, even though I work in a company that creates smart contracts that people who want to create NFT projects use, it's called smart contract dot recipes. Even though I do that, I would still say that NFTs are still a bit early. To give you an example of how NFTs could work, is creating access around your brand, creating an access around your art, your content. So say, if like gentleman style podcast, you have your podcast, you have all your content, but you create an NFT collection, and you have some special content that could be training, that could be some special interviews with some very special people. And if people want to listen to those, if people want to access that training, they need that NFT in their digital wallet. Um, so and because each NFT is associated like a non-fungible token, so each one has a token number, and that is a unique token number, and you use that as a ticket, as an access to, so people use that to access your content. And this could be sort of a lifelong access. So as long as they have that in their digital wallet, they can access your content. And that's how you yourself can use NFT. Now, every sort of a business would have some sort of a use case. Now, someone might say, or you might say that, why don't I just use a regular sort of a ticket on Eventbrite or something like that and just sell them an access through email or email login and stuff? Yes, I mean, you can let people log in through email. You could create a platform like that, or there might be platforms like, I'm sure there are platforms like that where people can pay a membership fees, join in. But there is a key unique difference, that when someone is, say, you created this NFT, and this NFT gives, you sell that to me, and now I have access to your Zoom. I can have a catch up with you once in a while, get consulting from you, get advice from you, and access some of your unique content. But then, say, after 6 months, I have got all the value I can out of your course, out of your everything I want. Then I can sell this NFT on an open marketplace, as well as you can code in that NFT that every time this NFT gets resold, 50% of the revenue goes back to you. You can write that in the smart contract. So every time I sell, it automatically gets executed and you automatically get that money in your digital wallet. So this sort of utility is very hard to do with email, let's say. So if you did allow people to log into your website with email and login, I cannot go and sell my email to someone else. And even if I mean, that's not a practical solution. So NFTs have a lot of utility. I mean, I just gave you one example. I mean, there's probably 100 different examples of how NFTs can be used and how the utility around it can be used. We will see more and more cases around built around NFTs, but I do feel we are still a bit early. Maybe in a year or couple of years, you will see mainstream solutions, mainstream brands using NFTs for pretty much nearly everything. The reason why Gary Vee's NFTs made $90 million for him in the first 90 days is because if you want to go to VCon or his conference, the only way to get in is through using his NFT. So that is like an access. That, yes. And then the most common criticism is that because most of the NFTs are for art, that if you have an NFT for art, that, oh, you can just copy it or save it, but it won't have the same token number because there's only one of those token numbers. So you can attach access to it, and it's very easy. You can go to a platform like Ethernet, like ETHScan or Polyscan or any of those, and you can see who really created that. So if it was an NFT created by you, then it would have value because it has your access attached to it, access to your content or whatever you have decided to give them. But if I've just copied it, it won't have any access attached to it. The digital wallet won't recognize it. It won't give them that. So yes, you can copy it, but you're unable to copy the same because it's a unique token number. It's there's no two same token numbers and stuff. So yeah, so that's in short.
Makes sense. I love it. Love it. Love it. That makes perfect sense. And that helps break the ice on NFTs. So
Yes.
connect. And that's huge, right? Because the world is
Yes.
changing around us. Things are changing around us. And if we don't connect with experts like yourself, who have inside knowledge, and your knowledge is vast because you've crossed several streams of different
Yes.
businesses, starting, selling. Those are unique aspects that most people don't think about. Most people don't think about selling their company. Everybody wants to start a business. No one ever thinks about the end game, and you have inside knowledge on that. I want to pivot a little bit because you also said esports. And esports, when I think esports, I think the professional gamers of games, right? The guys at the top
Yes.
getting paid to play video games, right? And so that's
Yes.
the pinnacle, that's the extreme. But you have inside knowledge because you've been in that industry. How can people start making money in video games with the technology of Web3? How does that work and how does that integrate? How do people make money by playing video games?
Okay, let me give you an example that is not of esports, but it applies to this as well. So for example, You'd have heard of the gold rush back in the days in the west, in the wild west of the, like, this is like maybe 140 years ago, 1800 something, 1880, whatever, in around San Francisco and in California, and then like the whole gold rush era, and everyone trying to look for gold. um the people who really did make money consistently were the people who were selling services to people who are going to look for gold. So people who are selling buckets and shovels and all those, because they had a steady stream of new people coming in to look for gold. Whereas people who are looking for gold, sometimes they would hit big, sometimes they would make nothing and lose all their fortune just looking. So that is the same thing as, when it comes to sports or music or esports, that yes, some of the players will get high end contracts from big teams and make 20 million a year or 5 million or 2 million or whatever the amount may be. Just like, in basketball, the top 100 people make all the money. But there are lots of other ways to engage in that industry and have a more consistent sort of a career and an income. So for example, not everyone will have the skills of LeBron James, or not everyone will have the skills of Steph Curry, or have the genetics and everything of that, and the connections and the training from childhood for that. And the same thing applies with esports. Not everyone will have that, what it takes to do 12, 14 hours of practice on whatever game they play online for the last 10 years, and have that sort of time and commitment put in. So not everyone will at the top of their game in that way. But just like with it was with the gold rush, just like that it is with sports. So in sports, they have to sustain so many stadiums, ticketing, marketing, advertising. There is so many adjacent, like food, so many adjacent fields attached to um, sports. So the same thing applies to esports, or same thing applies to gaming in web3, that there are so many other ways to make money. You could be designer, you could be a content creator, like on YouTube, on Twitch. You could be someone who specializes in promoting, someone who specializes in consulting and growing the brands for individual gamers, or for managing those teams. So you I have friends who work purely as announcers and commentators in esports. I have friends who purely work as journalists or media people in esports, and they have massive, like over 100,000 following on Twitter, and they get covered by all the major news media, and they get paid to speak. So there are so many different ways to go around it. I have another friend who works for a big accounting firm, KPMG, and all his thing is that he advises KPMG's clients on how they can advertise and get audience on esports. So he's making consistently big money. So his job is not reliant on how the game does, how the player does. If the player 1 year they don't perform, they lose their contract. He's gonna make money regardless of who the players, new players come and go, and new games come and go. He's gonna make money. So there are lots of careers in the adjacent field that you should look at, which are still fun and still provide, and in fact provide a much more stable and a fantastic sort of an ongoing income and a career for anyone.
So I'm struggling. I'm really trying to get it, and I guess I'm
Yes.
overwhelmed, right? I guess I'm more because you got blockchain, you got cryptocurrency, you got moon, what's it, Dogecoin, all these different coins. And so
Yes,
I'm
yes.
overwhelmed at the information and the knowledge. But help me understand, what is Web3 and how can you help me? 'Cause
Okay,
what
okay.
is it? How
I'll
does
help
it
you.
work?
Yes, I understand. I understand what you want to. I think we will have to record a 1 hour episode on this, because there is so much to unpack. But let me just share in a very few sort of sentences as I can. So Web 1, or the early internet, was where you could only read and write. So it was all static information. It was static blogs and stuff. And then Web 2 came, And all these are just very loosely defined terms, and they are like collection of sort of technologies and a collection or a era in time, you can say, so there is no concrete definition, and that's why it is, you're not the only one. Everyone finds it a bit more complex to understand this all this. And then the web 2 is kind of referred as the age of social media, around 2004, 5, 6. All these new social media things came around, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit. All these things came around, and you could start interacting with it a lot more. You could start sharing, because in the web 1 there was no sharing. Now you could start sharing, start retweeting, or whatever you might call it, liking, upvoting, downvote. All those sort of things came around, and things started to go viral. It sort of exploded, and it was aided with the rise of sort of mobile technology, that a lot more people could start interacting all the time with it. That was the web 2. But in web 2 there was a key difference. Anytime you are, say, commenting, making a post on Facebook or Twitter, um, like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't pay you to write a comment on Twitter and on Facebook or anything, to interact with it. Whereas in web 3, all this still exists, but there is another concept called own. So you start to own it. You start to What happens is that the platforms divide themselves in tokens and issue those tokens and reward their usage with tokens. So, say the more you interacted with that platform, the more tokens you will earn in that platform. So, it's in your interest to keep contributing, to keep participating. So not only you as an audience member or as a user benefits, the company also benefits, and then you get something out of it. The more usage there is, the more the token values appreciate, because more people are using, transacting in that token, are using that platform. So it is read, write, share, and also own. So that is the key difference in web3, and that's why there are thousands of different tokens that are associated with all these different platforms. So, say for example, you created your GSP token, gentleman style podcast token, and every time someone shares, and you start with a 1 billion token, and every time someone shares that um, your podcast on social media, you reward them 1 token. Or every time someone asks a meaningful question that you get answered on social media, you give them 5 tokens. And then you have this sort of a thing where um, and then anytime the money comes in, it gets divided between all the token holders. So then people get a share, and then that's why, and then those tokens are liquidly traded. They are liquid assets, they can be traded on the market. And so a lot of tokens are associated with some form of a platform and stuff, and then that's just part of it. So it's kind of like tokenizing assets and things like that. So I just gave you one example. There are probably 10,000 different examples on how it is being used in different industries in different ways.
So,
And
so
you can create your own token, you could create your own sort of currency. There is nothing stopping you.
So it's almost like buying stocks in a business, right?
Pretty much, pretty much.
You become a shareholder in the benefit. So, like you said, sticking with
Yes,
that same theme, I like where you're going. I like the sound of this.
yes,
People who share and subscribe and tune in to Gentleman Style Podcast can become, they can get tokens, they can get rewarded for tokens, with tokens from the show. And then as
yes.
they have more tokens, when profits come into Gentleman Style Podcast, the token holders actually reap the benefits of those profits as well. Did I follow, or am I way off?
Yes, yes, in a way. This is a very simplistic explanation, and
Okay.
this is just one use case. There's probably 20 other use cases
Wow.
of Web3 that we can go into, and that's why I think we'll have to do another one with a 1 hour book, 1 hour, and I can go through some more, and I can share with you the differences between the different sort of currencies or different blockchains, because different currencies often run on different types of blockchains and stuff. So I can go in more in depth in that with some examples and stuff, of course, to make it easy for anyone to understand. So yeah.
Where can people go to learn more about Web3, making money with blockchain? and integrating Web3 into their business?
Sure. So you can just search for me, Sam Kamani, and I talk a lot about all this stuff, and or search for my name on any of the audio platform. So I have my own podcast, Web3 with Sam Kamani. So just search, search that on any audio platform and you'll find it. And I cover all these sort of topics, especially the early episodes are the where I explain in detail in a very simple, easy to understand language. So what are NFTs? What is Metaverse? What is Web3? How do do security in this? How do you be secure and all those sort of things. I must admit, I have so much content. I have few hundred hours of content that I need to edit and put on YouTube. But there's only so much time in a day. So
Understand. You're busy man. Thank you, Mr. Kamani. This has been fantastic, and we need to get you back on stage because you are helping us get to a better place. So thank you so much for being here and giving back in this way. Anything left? And is there any final nuggets you want to share?
I think you have to be safe. I think the best thing to do is learn and educate yourself as much as you can in this space. So that would be my number one advice. That start learning, start educating yourself in this space before you spend any money or before you give anyone any any money in this space. So I would say that. So be safe. This is not investment advice. Do your own research, learn everything you can before you start engaging in it financially.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Kamani. This is huge.
Thank you. It's been fantastic.
Absolutely. And we got to let him go. Mr. Kamani has been absolutely incredible. Thank you all for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast show. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been incredible. And I hope this helps you take your business to the next level, y'all. This has been amazing. Like I always end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast show, signing off with the incredible love and information of Sam Kamani. Love you guys. Bye.